Professional Serving Community, talkradio.nyc.
Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to the A Train to Sedona broadcast. I'm Linda Marsanico. The A Train to Sedona is also a memoir I wrote about my journey to love and compassion. In it, I share my failings, my successes. I wrote the book to have my voice be heard, but also to inspire your journey, that it will be more direct and powerful. You can buy a signed copy of the A Train to Sedona on my website at lindamarsanico.com on Buy the Book page. You can also get a copy at Amazon, Walmart, Barnes & Noble. That would be a regular unsigned copy, and bookstores. I also have a free gift for you. I call it the cheat sheet for high vibration living. In it are 7 exercises designed to help you keep your energy high and in the present moment. I'm going to highlight the walking meditation. And the first time I heard about a walking meditation was from Thich Nhat Hanh. Ideally, we would be walking in the park without our shoes, the soles of our feet touching the earth, allowing the earth to recharge us, to nurture us. And the idea is to keep in the moment as we do that. Yet I've done this on a busy shopping street. If I'm looking at dresses, I can say, oh, dresses, and go back to the present moment. If you're looking at exercise gear, oh, yes, exercise gear, and come back to the present moment. It's quite versatile. You can download a copy on my website at lindamarsanico.com. I have 2 disclaimers. One, that this broadcast does not establish a professional relationship. And 2, that the opinions expressed today do not necessarily represent Talk Radio New York City. Today, I'm so happy to have as my guest, Jordann. Jordann is a transformational coach, spiritual guide, and multi-dimensional creator devoted to helping people remember who they are and embody lives that feel like heaven on earth. Her work blends subconscious reprogramming with the PHYCH-K program, energetics, embodiment, and manifestation to help clients move through burnout, emotional heaviness, disconnection, and into clarity, vitality, and soul alignment. With a deep reverence for the body, beauty, and the unseen, Jordann guides others to reconnect with their intuition, to clear what no longer serves, and to create lives rooted in joy, spaciousness, and unapologetic truth. Jordann is currently building an online platform offering group programs, coaching, and immersive experiences for those ready to rise, reclaim their energy, and live in harmony with their highest path. Jordann, please unmute yourself. And welcome to the show.
Thanks so much, Linda. Thanks for having me.
I first want to ask you about the influences that you've had in the past that bring you to where you are today.
Yeah, great question. So there's a couple of channels of influences, one of which is my personal experience, kind of the hardships that we have along our human journey. And when I was younger in middle school still, I had several family members who got diagnosed with cancer, who passed away with cancer. And growing up in a very religious family, there was just that dichotomy that didn't make sense. And then coupled with my uncle by marriage being an astrologist, a geologist, he read my chart when I was like 7 or 8 or super young. And in my chart, he read it and he said, Jordann, you're going to be a healer. And like at that age, I had no idea what a healer meant and what it was that he was looking at that, gave him this information. And so those two things kind of invited me to dive deeper into the unknown and to really understand deeper, like what is all of this stuff that doesn't make sense, and to make sense of it. And so then I started exploring different things, beginning in Reiki, and then going down that channel of unending different spiritual practices that I've taken on and learned from my teachers.
So your uncle was a great influence.
Yes, massive. He definitely was one of those people that pivoted my life in a huge way.
My second question is, would you tell us what the role of love, compassion, or spirituality is in your life?
Yeah. Well, there's this quote that I've always really loved. It goes something along the lines of like, love is the spaces in between. And so I see that as like when we can really get into the slowness and this presence, and love is really everything around us. And I practice Kundalini yoga, and one of the sayings in that is Waheguru. It means all is God. And so I see love is God, like interconnected in the same thing. So it's everything, as above, so below, and understanding that we are creators of our life. And these life experiences that we have are created from the inside out. And that's how I see the intertwinement of love, and just being these incredible bodies of, we get to create whatever we want. And that's kind of how I've come into all of this, is understanding that I really do have the power to create my life. And it is through this sense of, I guess you could say, the love and compassion within me, understanding that God sense is within me and all of us. And it takes I feel like there's this level of give and take, where it's like you feel like you had it figured out, and then it's like, I know nothing. And so bringing that sense of compassion into those experiences, where we are all human, and there isn't like somebody who's got it all figured out. I see myself as somebody who's like, I like to see myself always as a student, and just helping people along the way in that sense.
And we're all connected in being challenged,
Mm-hmm.
because the challenges as we grow in spirituality and love and compassion, which is spirituality to me, I find that the challenges are more nuanced because we have greater ability to be discerning.
Mm-hmm.
So it is an adventure, this bumpy road of adventure on the spiritual path.
Yeah, totally. And some people think that the spirituality, it's only one certain type of thing, but the spirituality is it all. It's everything, the hard things, the easy things, good and bad. It's the all of it all together, the wholeness of the interconnected between the masculine and the feminine, and these different dichotomies that we have in the duality world that we live in.
Yes, I often say to myself and my clients that we have the feminine side on the left and the masculine side on the right.
Mm-hmm.
And if we act from this or that, we're not integrated. The idea is to bring it to a healed, integrated sense of us. And that's in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
in the gray, I want to say in the colors in between the black or the white, the yes or the no. I think that spirituality and love and compassion are somewhere in the middle. More, as we've said, it's less defined. We need to search for it to understand it. I think it's very defined, but we need to find it with each challenge that we get.
Yeah, that's a really interesting perspective. And you see that with like one of the most ancient lineages of the Tao, and they have the yin and the yang. And you know, when you start looking into all of the different pieces of study and tradition that comes in, we do live in a world of duality. That's just kind of the nature of how we're here, and understanding that that is the case, and beginning to kind of, I guess, like what you were saying, that gray spot in between is in dissolving dissolving that to kind of be able to flow between the masculine and the feminine. And you know, not to get off on a tangent, but like that's really what I'm seeing right now in the current collective of like the challenges that people have in dating and love, is that like they're being challenged to embody that masculine and feminine in themselves. And so we can come together more so in wholeness, and even just in like our purpose and our gifts as it is, like bringing that true essence forward. And so then we can come as a whole individually and also like collectively, because the world needs us all together fitting into that piece of the puzzle.
Because we are truly all connected in a one.
Yeah.
Brothers and sisters and neighbors, and then we have our biological family, but we are connected to this oneness. And the journey, really, we're talking about this now. The journey is within. There's a core of love within us where Creator exists. And so the questions bring us closer and closer. Uncertainty could be a gift, not knowing. I think of Harry Potter on his Marauder's map. He would go into a situation, the map is completely blank. He's on, I don't know if he's on his broom, I forget what that's called, but he's soaring. He makes a decision and the map lights up. And I think that J.K. Rowling is a very spiritual person, and her thoughts were just amazingly imaginative and quite spiritual. So I didn't want to read Harry Potter until my granddaughter said to me, she was about 11 at the time. I said, would you like me to read you the book? Because I would read to her at bedtime. She said, no, Grandma, why don't you get your own? They're on my shelf. So I got book number 1 and I couldn't put it down. And I read each one of them. And when the series ended, I felt as though I lost my friends. They had grown up in the book series. They had been through unimaginable challenges.
Wow.
People died off. They survived. It was an amazing experience of great writing. Now I'm anticipating a question for when we come back from the break, Jordann. This is a very provocative question that I'm going to pose. You talk about creating heaven on earth. So I would like my listeners to come back after break to hear, what does creating heaven on earth really mean? And how do we begin to create that? So we'll tackle that when we come back. So listeners, remember, we'll see you soon.
Are you a conscious co-creator? Are you on a quest to raise your vibration and your consciousness? I'm Sam Leibowitz, your conscious consultant, and on my show, The Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity, we will touch upon all these topics and more. Listen live at our new time on Thursdays at 12 noon Eastern Time. That's The Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity, Thursdays 12 noon on talkradio.nyc.
Are you a high-achieving, growth-oriented leader? Are you interested in developing your authentic leadership while creating a healthy, inclusive workplace? Hi, I'm Dr. Mira Broncu, host of The Hard Skills on talkradio.nyc at 5 p.m. Eastern on Tuesdays, where we discuss how leaders develop the hard skills needed to make a greater impact. We interview experts, have live coaching, and tackle these challenges. Listen to The Hard Skills on Tuesday at 5 p.m. Eastern on talkradio.nyc.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC. Uplift, educate, empower.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the A Train to Sedona broadcast. I'm Linda Marsanico with my guest, Jordann. And Jordann, I'm going to ask you to unmute yourself. It takes a lot of practice. I myself, and I've been doing this since last year, about 9 months now. So my question is, what does creating heaven on earth really mean? And how do we begin that?
Yeah. So this is one of the things that I've seen is I always try to remind myself to make things as simple as possible, because sometimes we can get into this woo space. And I feel like the statement creating heaven on earth can both be way out there and also super grounded. But essentially the basis of it is understanding that this world, this tangible experience is created in response to our internal state. And so it's really, I mean, for me, it's one of my core beliefs that it's really possible to have whatever it is that you want. And heaven is like kind of like our dream life. It's this homeostasis and balance of the masculine and feminine. When we have those two together, that's when we can create. And so bringing that that kind of elevated state of like these dreams that we want, that we can imagine, and grounding them into the physical, creating that heaven on earth. And when I first heard it, I was like, oh, that sounds so silly. And it's also very interesting because in one of the tools that I use in human design, that is technically one of my gifts, is being able to help people create their heaven on earth, and basically helping people create the tangible through the non-tangible. So I don't know if that makes sense. I'll pause there before I go in deeper.
It's a very interesting concept that when we clear away the distractions, we're able then to co-create, to manifest our constructive desires. Merlin talks about using our magic wand to create our desires. And we're talking about constructive desires now. And the wand is intention. So the idea in manifesting is to say, I want this, but if part of me is saying, no, I don't, the law of attraction doesn't know how to react, and it gets blurred. So we need to be focused, and we need to know what it is that we're putting out there. And that comes through knowing who we are, healing what needs to be healed, really developing self-love and compassion for ourselves so that we can give it out to others. And that's how I believe, we create heaven on earth, through embodying love. What's inside gets reflected outside, right? We are creating all the time. So let's do it consciously and constructively, powerfully, like a laser. There's a quote, Buddha says, don't attempt, just do. And for years, I didn't really understand the meaning until finally I got it. If I attempt, I meander. The energy is diffuse. If I do, it's like a laser. And that's the intention that we want. So I'm all for heaven on earth.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very interesting. With the last part, what you said of doing, it's very interesting because also there's in Access Consciousness, he talks about choosing, and that's almost very similar in maybe in what he was trying to say is because when we make a choice, we make that forward movement in what we want. And we have the power to choose. So that's also empowering ourselves to be able to move towards that which we desire, AKA being creators. And so instead of like dwelling in this in between of like, what should I do? What shouldn't I do? And what other people want me to do, also making that choice. And one of the things that you can do when there is difficulty in making choices is think of like, what will my life be like 5 years from now if I make this decision? And it sounds very simple, but if you can start applying that to your day-to-day decisions, it becomes very simple and quick moving when you can make those decisions, and you will start to see more space and more clarity in everyday moments of life.
Absolutely. Some years ago, and I wrote this in the A Train to Sedona memoir, I created a series of questions to help myself as well as my clients to make decisions, whether it's a yes or a no. So because we're constantly making decisions,
Mhm.
do I wish to? Do I want to? Can I emotionally and financially afford to say yes or no to these? And when I hold this in my heart, this yes or no answer, does it have integrity for me? And is it consistent with the person I wish to become? And in doing that, we learn what we truly want to be doing. It's a very, I think, helpful skill for the toolkit to define, yes, this is what I want. And it may take time to decide that because if I have yeses and then one no for those questions, I have to figure out, I don't have to, but if I want to be full of intent, I need to figure that out.
Mhm.
I'm all for intention and choosing. It's
Mhm.
assertion as we move along the path.
Mhm. Yeah, and with all of that, one of the things that you mentioned before, Linda, was with our choices and who we are and those things that determine our life around us. One of the things that is important to understand is how our subconscious and conscious mind works. So we might be doing the affirmations and doing the things of like being spiritual and being aware and like drinking our matcha and taking our supplements and all the things, but it's so fascinating when you start to understand that, like, as women especially, we were in our grandmothers, so we were eggs inside our mother, inside our grandmother. So all of those things, whether or not you believe in like the spiritual, like the non-physical aspect, like not talking about DNA, passed down through your grandmother, all of her experiences that she had, you energetically experienced in her womb. And so those kinds of things are also very interesting to understand because our subconscious controls over 90% of our life. And so that's where these tools and practices come into play so powerfully, is because when you understand how these things work behind the scenes, then you can use these things of awareness and choice to navigate those unconscious programs and bring awareness. And that's kind of where the quantum mechanics come in, is like when you can see things and bring light to these darkness, to these shadow aspects maybe of traumas, let's say, that you have growing up, then that's when you become the powerful creator of your life, and being able to fully express this creation of your heaven on earth, of all of your desires that not only you want to have, but it is your birthright. It's literally your birthright. All of the dreams and desires that you have, if you can imagine it in your mind, they were planted in there for you to actualize. So I just wanted to circle back to that part that you mentioned because it's very, very important.
Yes, and you studied PHYCH-K with Dr. Bruce Lipton.
Mm-hmm.
He's someone who has informed my work. When he published in 2005, The Biology of Belief, I was riveted to understand his statement that the genes are not set in stone. They can be altered by the internal environment of our attitudes and our feelings and our emotions. That these can change the expression of the genes. So I later on, I would like to ask you more about PHYCH-K. It sounds very fascinating to me. So my next question is, what turning point led you into the work you do now?
Well, I guess they're all parts of the pieces that fit together. I get asked a lot, at what point in my life was like my spiritual awakening. And I've always answered to that like it was written in the stars. I feel like, every little turn in my life has really led me to here. With kind of those aspects of my family having the experience of their health issues to open up these different ways of health and well-being, and trying to understand why that happened. Because when you lose someone that's a really close part of your family at a young age, things just don't make sense. And so yeah, that. And then one of the one of the other interesting things, I was an exchange student when I was in high school, and then I was vegan before, and you have to try things 3 times in exchange before you can say you don't like it. And so I didn't want to be this rude American, going through this experience and not trying the food. So I tried the meat, and of course I loved it. But then when I came back, I noticed like I had gained a bunch of weight, and I was like, I didn't know anything about organic food or eating healthy. I grew up in like a super blue collar home. And then I was like, oh, I'm just gonna try eating organic. Like I've heard some things, and I lost like 10 or 15 pounds. And not that I was trying to lose weight, but it was like something that clicked in my mind of how the things that I'm eating and putting in my body have a really strong impact on, my physical health. And so I've gotten really into how the foods, herbs, and supplements all work together to really give your body the most vitality and nutrition that it needs, and how you can do so in a way that is individual to your own body. So that was really helpful and super interesting along my journey. And yeah, I mean, I've been traveling for 2, 3 years now, and as I go along, I constantly learn new modalities and learn different people that come along the path that just, further emphasize different understandings in different layers and aspects, kind of like diamond facets of the whole truth, and helping me to understand how that works and how I can help other people work with that.
And where have you traveled, Jordann?
So I traveled all over in the US. I did some time in Utah, the national parks there, Zion, Glacier National, Nevada, California, Texas, Arizona, Colorado, all over the western side. And then I spent about a year overseas, did some time in Bali, Indonesia, and Cambodia, Thailand, and Australia.
How wonderful.
Yeah.
We learn so much through traveling.
Yeah.
People, culture, a different way, a different perspective on things. As you said, you had to try something 3 times before you say I don't like it.
Yeah. Yeah, it really is. And it's so interesting to see. It's almost like you get to like be born again, of like being a child and not understanding like, oh, this is how we do things, like and these are the foods that we eat. Like everything is so new, and understanding how people act culturally, like what are things that are normal or weird. And like in Brazil, when I lived there, like in the US, like burping is kind of like, it's not super weird, but like you wouldn't do it at a meeting kind of thing. But in Brazil, if you burp, like even around your friends, it's like, oh my God, that's disgusting. And like, how could, it's like, same as passing gas. So different nuances like that of traveling that like really open your eyes and make you re-question your reality. of like, why do we do this? And how do we do this? And then, coming back with a completely open mind, it really challenges, I feel like, whatever those things in your mind that wire your brain and the patterns to experience life in a certain way. It kind of opens that up so you can create more connections, and then let alone the people that you meet while you're traveling.
Oh, the brain must make a lot of synapses during travel.
Yeah,
New
totally.
brain connections.
Yeah.
We're getting ready for a break. And when we come back, I want to share that I've had a Trinidadian healer who talks about life force in foods, fresh. So we'll talk about that. And I have other questions to ask you, Jordann. So we'll take a break and come back to a healer that I wanted to share some information about.
Perfect.
Were you an essential worker during the pandemic? If you needed to learn stages of epilepsy, did you depend on advocates? Did you use new innovations to cope with mental and neurological issues? Maintaining high quality of life and keeping good mental health are what we all strive for. I'm Frank R. Harrison, host of Frank About Health, and each week top healthcare influencers, professionals, and innovators answer these questions and more. Stay tuned on Thursdays at 5 p.m. on talkradio.nyc, and I will continue to be frank about health with all of you.
Ready to serve up success with a splash? Hi, I'm Bruce Kramer, aka the corporate cockroach.
I'm the Renaissance woman, Angie Snowball.
And I'm your strategy doctor, Dr. Navtej Desange, inviting you to serving up success with a splash.
Join us as we shake things up with real talk and real strategies centered around awareness, action, and accountability.
And yes, there really is a cocktail involved. Please join us and sip your way to success.
Serving up success with a splash, where wisdom meets happy hours. Cheers! Cheers!
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC at www.talkradio.nyc, now broadcasting 24 hours a day.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the A Train to Sedona broadcast. I'm Linda Marsanico with my guest, Jordann. And I wanted to share some information about a healer that I saw about 5 years ago, I would say. I wanted to detoxify my body. So a friend of mine knew her, and I set up an appointment for a 3-month fast. And I couldn't eat any meat. I decided there would be no meat, eggs, no nuts, vegetables, and lots of liquids. And Mama Naya is her name, would cook herbs and roots and give me jugs of liquid to drink. And after the 3 months, I felt wonderful. So it's important to remember that we need food that has a strong life force, because we are what we eat and we want to be as healthy as we can. So Jordann, I have a question for you. How do you help clients heal from burnout, disconnection, or feeling off track?
So I work primarily with women, and a lot of the women that I work with, it's very simple of just coming down to the management of energy. And one of my core beliefs is that when you come into alignment with your correct energy, with your sense of purpose and fulfillment and what's true to you, then those energies that don't match up with that, I feel like for example, when people are stressed at work and burnout, it's a mismatch of energy. And so you're trying to fit what is it called? Like a square peg into a round hole. Is that what they say? And so when we start to peel away these layers of conditioning, so in my work, I kind of parallel trauma with a lowercase t to conditioning, these things that we've been built up and learned around the years. And when we peel those away and come to this true sense of inner alignment, that's when like the stress and the tension and the burnout and like all of this kind of like these sense of heaviness and physical heaviness in our body and confusion in our mind and sluggishness, it just melts away. And when we begin to ask the right questions of, you know, how does it get any better than this? And coming from a sense of opening up possibility rather than coming from conclusion, it really just shifts the perspective. And it can be as simple as that, as just, you know, being able to do these practices that change the lens in which we see the world and how we see ourselves. And so that's the gist of it.
Can you give us an example of one practice that you might help a client shift?
Yeah. So so a lot of times the people that I work with have a lot of stress and work drama. And so we often do PHYCH-K. And so PHYCH-K is one of the practices that we mentioned earlier. That is one in epigenetics. And so I'm not going to go into like how we do that, but essentially what we do is we create, we go from what we don't want to what we do want. And there's different mind-body connections, practices that we use to reframe that belief. And when we do that, we check in with the energy afterwards to see if that belief still holds true. And one of the things that I can share in exploring what is true for you or not, these practices in understanding more so like getting the conscious mind out of the way and understanding what's true for you. There's a few different things that you can do in order to do that. If you're more of an energetic person where you can sit with yourself and feel like, does this choice feel lighter or heavier? That's one thing that you can do. If you're familiar with the sway test or muscle testing, I do that often when I'm looking at the store for supplements and I want to get every single supplement out there. You can, you know, use your fingers, make little loops and interlock your fingers and pull them apart. And that's part of what we do in the PHYCH-K method as well, to test with truth. And so you can ask yourself, like, should I get this coffee? And if it holds strong when you pull it apart, then that means that's true for you. If it's not, if it breaks away very easily, then that means it's false. And so it's a sense of becoming more connected into that truth. And so PHYCH-K is one of the biggest practices that we use in the sessions. And then also tapping into the sense of energy of like how we can clear that through. So I do a lot of Reiki as well, which is one of the oldest forms of Japanese energy healing. And it's interesting talking about heaven and earth, because Rei means heaven, Ki means earth. So you're a channel between heaven and earth, and you're just channeling that energy, and anybody can do that. We have chakras in so many different parts of our body. One of the most powerful ones is our hands. So there's several different healing modalities as well that use magnets to clear energy. So if you're ever feeling stuff in your body, you can use your own hands and rub it together and just send that light and awareness through your own hands. But yeah, that's a lot of what the sessions entail.
Thank you for sharing that. It's fascinating. Muscle testing is fascinating. Donna Eden wrote a book, Energy Medicine, which has a lovely protocol. David Hawkins studied muscle testing, and it's quite amazing that the body has this information. And we need to respect the body, and these practices that you share enable us to know what the body will tell us. And it's, as I said, as we agree, it's wonderful practice. So we talked about body, intuition. I don't know if we talked so much about intuition. We talked about putting the food in our body that has life force, and that organic food had a great effect on you.
Yeah.
How does intuition figure into the transformation process?
Well, I feel like intuition is that process. A lot, I get asked this one a lot all the time. Is like even so, I work in like a male-dominated industry for my main job. For my entire life, I've been in sales, used to do mortgages, and always surrounded by men. And men are like, so astrology, intuition. So like, how do you know that's what it is? And it's fun to explore, because intuition at the end of the day is like, we all have that innate caveman sense in us of like, you know, I kind of want to explore that path or that road. You know, if you're driving in a new city, and then even if you slow down and get into this place of like checking in with yourself, and it all comes down to this inner truth, when you can create a space of separation between all of this noise, and there is a lot of noise that's out there, whether that is our mentors, our family, our parents, you know, telling us what we should and shouldn't do. And then also there's a huge frequency that's constantly pulsating through the earth and the world around us, in the cities, and like these electromagnetic frequencies. So there's a lot coming at us all the time. And so really coming into a sense of slowing down and practicing and cultivating that discernment between what's yours and what's not yours. And the more that you do that, it will be really clear what intuition is. And at the end of the day, it's like that. One of my teachers, she has a book, The Still Small Voice, and it's that still small voice inside of you. When you come to that place of calmness, it's that voice that speaks, the voice that resonates beneath all of the noise. And that's what's true for you. And it might not be true for other people. I don't think that there's a right or wrong sense of intuition. That's why when you have tarot readers, you know, you can have the same deck of cards, and each tarot reader is going to read it differently. It's playing with that energy of your internal pull.
I live in Brooklyn, New York, and my car is on the street and has to be moved twice a week. There have been times when I have a challenge to find a space. So I've taken to speaking to my parking angels. Also, I have a beautiful statue of Buddha with Velcro sitting on my dashboard.
Okay.
So I'll say, okay, I don't know which way to turn, and I'll come to the intersection and I'll wait for guidance. And then I'll find a space. So it's stepping back and allowing the energy to speak, or for the intuition, for me to listen to my intuition, or listen to the beings that are helping me to find parking. It may not be important in St. Louis, Missouri, but in Brooklyn without a garage, it's really quite a challenge.
Totally. I love that. Yeah, I also have parking lot angels. They get me VIP parking all the time. It's the simple things in life, you know?
The simple things that really need to be handled.
Yeah. Yeah, the human things.
Yes. So we're getting close to having a commercial break again. We've talked about the power of the subconscious reprogramming in PHYCH-K. Have you said enough about that? I'm not sure if we need to talk more about that. We have other things to talk about when we come back. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I can talk about it all day. Is there other things that you think your listeners or that you would want to understand about it?
I think maybe we will talk a little bit about that. So listeners, we're going to take a commercial break. And when we come back, Jordann is going to share more about PHYCH-K, the program. about subconscious programming.
Beautiful.
Hey everybody, it's Tommy D, the nonprofit sector connector, coming at you from my attic. Each week here on talkradio.nyc, I host a program, Philanthropy in Focus. Nonprofits impact us each and every day, and it's my focus to help them amplify their message and tell their story. Listen each week at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time until 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on talkradio.nyc.
Hi, I'm Linda Marsanico. The A Train to Sedona is a memoir about my journey to love and compassion. It's also the name of my new broadcast on Wednesdays at 12 noon. When we are spiritual, we embrace possibilities and ideas, which strengthen our mind, body, spirit, health, and wisdom. On the A Train to Sedona broadcast, I plan to interview guests who embrace these expansive practices. Join us on Wednesdays at 12 noon on Talk Radio New York City.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC at www.talkradio.nyc. Now broadcasting 24 hours a day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the A Train to Sedona broadcast. I'm Linda Marsanico with my guest, Jordann. So, Jordann, I'm wondering, with PHYCH-K, how long would a client work with you with that program?
How long, are you asking how long it takes to get results?
Yes.
Well, the results are as quick as 15 minutes. It's pretty instantaneous. So I would say that, I mean, I have clients that do just one-off sessions, and sometimes those programs can be cleared in just one session. And, you know, people are constantly experiencing new challenges in life. And so most people end up rescheduling just to kind of tackle those new awarenesses, because once we start peeling off those layers, there's new things that come up. But, you know, each concept that you work on, you know, each belief that you work on can really be cleared in 15 minutes or less.
That sounds spectacular.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very powerful. And but the thing with that is, you know, when kind of, if you understand the spiritual journey, you know, I did this program, priestess program one time, and one of the shamanic lineages is the spiral path. And I've always loved the concept, because once we think that we've mastered something, we kind of just graduate to this next level octave of that pattern or programming, and we get to experience life in a way that challenges us in a similar way, but at a different level octave, in a different similar way. And so that's kind of one of those things that PHYCH-K really helps with. And a lot of these tools is to be able to continue up that spiral path of experiencing not just the challenges and these beliefs, but moving past that, so you can experience life in a more full way, so that you can enjoy you know, fulfilling your purpose, and can enjoy like the beauty and the things around you, like we're supposed to do, not struggle and strife and 9 to 5 and all that.
Yeah, absolutely. So why are embodiment and beauty so central to your work?
So I would say because it's one of the forgotten arts. I've read this book one time. It's the Mystery of Mary Magdalene, and it was talking about how it's actually part of my business logo, in the masculine and the feminine. And so that's a core principle in the work that I do, is that we need the masculine and the feminine to be able to create within ourselves. And, you know, everything around us is guided by that principle. And so with the masculine and feminine, when we can create from that place, it allows us to be able to open up to these different experiences. And so that's probably one of the biggest things that it allows us to do.
Yes, to be joyful and to appreciate beauty. It reminds me of a blog that I wrote. It was a very hot day about 10 years ago, I would say, and I was at the gym. At 8 in the morning, it was 80 degrees. So I emerged from the gym, air conditioned, and faced the 80-degree right in my face. And I thought, I can either tense up or embrace it. And as I embraced the heat, I could feel a sense that my molecules were opening up.
Totally.
And I walked across the street, walked across another street, and saw a bird and heard that bird sing. And had I tensed and complained about the weather, I never would have been able to hear that, see that bird, hear that bird perform in such a beautiful way. So there is a lot of beauty around us, and it's helpful to learn techniques that enable us to take it in.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And with that book that I mentioned, one of the things in there is it talks about the gematria of the Bible, and how that also talks about how we're missing that feminine aspect. And I think that we're coming back with the pendulum of being in this sense of like super masculine. There was a time where women were more, it was more of a matriarchy.
Yes.
And they worked with the systems and the cycles of the planets. And then we entered into this era of kind of masculine dominance. And what I mean by that is like we started agriculture and we started using these different tools to change these cycles to fit our needs. We needed more food. And so we created this farming and irrigation and all of that. And then we kind of lost touch with the sense of the feminine. And that's going back to your question of the beauty and the body and those essences. It's very important because that is part of this lost wisdom that I feel like in a collective, we've kind of buried down, and with our emotions, and like, it's like, oh, we don't want to feel that. And those kinds of things, like, I feel like in our body and our physical experience, and what I've seen with my clients' work, and also in the world around us, people are experiencing suffering because of this lack of acknowledgement with that feminine side, with the sensual, with the chaos, and like the unknown, and kind of what you were saying with J.K. Rowling's, like, the pen to paper kind of thing. It's a balance of having the direction and making those choices, and then also like the chaos within that. And so that's kind of another way to see that beauty of the body, the unknown, the feminine, and how can we bring into that sense of integration with the physical.
Yes. And men need their feminine side as women need the masculine side to be fully able to co-create. It's quite a journey. I've worked on both sides, and I continue to do so because we're never finished, really. There are always challenges as we go up the spiral of higher vibration.
Yeah.
But we have a limited amount of time now. And I wanted to ask you, how do we start? You talk about living more unapologetically. How do we start living more unapologetically, especially when we might feel stuck or afraid?
I would say it just starts with making one choice. Those quiet things within us that are like hidden desires. How can you make one small choice in that direction, and notice your experience when you make those small choices for yourself? Whether that's taking a bath, or maybe like getting yourself a nice tea. Those kinds of things, you start to see that vibrational alignment with the things that you desire, and they will connect up to you and start bringing you closer to the things that you really want. And that experience of having the life that you want and creating that from a point of intentional creation is one of the best feelings. So
it is. And giving myself a cup of tea or hot bath, which I had this morning. I'm looking forward to the tea. Is really a way to show self-love, to nurture in simple ways that build up, and they continue to build up. And it's quite the moment that we allow ourselves to step back and to decide, to wonder, well, what do I want at this moment? Being in the present moment, which is that gift. You know, gift and present are the same, they have the same meaning in the English language. So to give ourselves those gifts to nurture and develop self-love so that we can give it out to others. Just briefly, what's lighting you up most in this season of your life and business?
Right now, it's really going back to that masculine and the feminine of being able to move through deep challenges with a sense of grace and unattachment. And so being able to navigate those things right now is really empowering me to create, whether that's different programs or see things from a different aspect, shifting from a new career right now. I'm seeing life in a different lens, and I am opening into like a new portal right now of experiencing and creating in ways that I haven't before. And I'm coming into some new programs that I'm going to be learning of some mystery schools and life activations to be able to open up some more programs. And what that does is it helps people bring in more light into their experience. So those kind of, I feel like I'm initiating into these challenges, which is, it's fun to explore that inner world and then be able to share it with other people and see that reflected in a way that's supported by other experiences.
Lovely. How can people find you?
There's a few different ways. Business website or Instagram is both Trauma Apothecary. And then you can email me as well. I'm sure you'll put that in the show notes, but it's
you can state it now as well.
Yeah. So Trauma Apothecary is TRAUMAPOTECHARY. So the A of trauma at the end is the same as apothecary.
Lovely. Listeners, I want to say that next week, my guest is going to be Patty Hoyt. She is a heart, soul, ascension healer who lives in Hawaii. Jordann, I want to say it was so lovely to chat with you today.
You too, Linda. Thanks so much for having me. This was fun.
It was fun. Hang out for just a minute after we go off.
Okay.
Thank you. And we can take it away, listeners. See you next Wednesday at 12 noon.
You're listening to Talk Radio